Recording also there.
I believe so, yep.
All right. We'll call the June 12th transit meeting to order. We got roll call. As of right now, we're missing Darren, John, and Richard. But we do have a quorum. Approval of minutes from the May.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Public comment here for the next meeting, right? Item place of fear none. Staff reports. Austin.
We had Gary that made the motion and Gary that seconded that, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Sharing my screen. Transit meeting 6/12/24. Agenda day, ridership, financials, publicity on the route, rules, service ideas, and any questions. Doorstop and Red Cedar ridership. Did real well with uptick versus other months of May in previous years. Fourth best, had a downtick. And saw a nice uptick there for May. Almost 21 rides on average for May, so looking good even versus February based on service days. Stout route ridership. It was very nice out in May. It did have the same number of service days as last year. But still we're in the middle of the pack, but looking back versus a little bit further back in previous years, 2 more service days in 2022. But looking at your spring totals versus the previous years, it still did very well considering how warm of a spring it was. So that was good to see. Community route ridership, obviously a big decrease versus April, with Stout getting out, but if you look at it versus the previous years, it was the second best May ever. And it was the first May with a paid fare since 2021. So that means that a lot more community members are riding that bus in May. So that was awesome to see, especially since this will be our first summer with a paid fare in a few years. 2024 financials. What we're projected is right to even right now, and this is our first month with it going down to 3 routes for the summer. So we'll be banking more savings here through August into Labor Day, and then carrying that forward with some of the higher cost months of this fall for fuel, with going back to 5 routes after the summer is done. Publicity, this is the second month of putting $30 to $50 a month into Google, and getting some traction, a little less than last month, but I think a lot of it had to do with just the influx of population in this radius that's using it. But seeing how people search with the app, 66% on their mobile device, and then looking at what people are searching for, which was a little different of the search terms versus last month. Interesting to see. And then where did the $34.84 go? 1.5K on how often the ads were shown, how many clicks, how many local actions, and then how many calls from it. So I cut that off down at the bottom, but it's interesting to see who it went to as well. Okay. So, this call or an email came in a couple months ago, and then a call came in right before I sent this, our agenda out last week. So I added it to the agenda as an action item, but CVTC Menominee campus is asking for CVTC students who ride the community bus to receive the discounted community route punch card fare rate of $10 versus $15. And welcome any discussion on this. For that quickly, there's only about 5 to 10 riders that this will be affecting, is what the campus advisor or employee said, but the ones that it will affect them greatly. So, yeah,
You want to discuss that now or wait until 7?
we can discuss and make a decision on that, for the considerations.
Okay.
And then on the route, Wisconsin Milkweed Alliance, yesterday they picked up 300 community passes and that's 600 rides, and $4,500 worth of punch cards. So it's great to see for our local share. That'll most likely get them to next year in May or June, and their fiscal year ends as well. But I was talking to Gretchen about what they do before this meeting because I wasn't fully sure. They're based out of the basement of City Hall. The bus stops there once an hour and goes past a lot of their shelters, shared homes that people in need utilize, as well as stepping stones in a lot of other places. So that was great to see. And we'll get them more verbiage and advertising material to give out. We gave them brochures, showed them how the route worked, and they're very excited just to give those out and do what they can to help and kind of create this partnership. Okay, yesterday we had a meeting with ADRC. They're in charge of the volunteer driver program. Pre-2020, the volunteer driver program had around 10 drivers. We have one right now that normally only takes veterans. So the availability is very limited with the volunteer driver program. That is our kind of county-based program that takes individuals to Eau Claire or to the cities or even in the rural areas into town. We thought of ideas on how to advertise and get more volunteer drivers. It's very hard to recruit volunteer drivers because they just get paid the 67 cents a mile. And then they have to fill out a tax form at the end of the year, or they get taxed on that 67 cents a mile, and they're using their personal vehicle, that sort of thing. One idea that the ADRC team had was paying a family member for just driving that individual, getting them signed up to at least take care of that individual. Like a grandson takes grandma or grandpa, and they get paid gas money for that. That's would help a little bit. They wouldn't be able to help everybody, but they'd kind of be as a case by case to help that individual and get paid for it. A couple northern counties tried that out last year and have had some success. So that was an idea. If anybody else has people interested in this, let me know and I can forward your information to the ADRC to get set up as a volunteer driver. People call in. ADRC as individuals that need rides, they call us, we contact the driver, pair them, and then they get to their appointments. The other idea that we've talked about this in previous annual county meetings is kind of splitting this up. I think the easiest way to do this would be a 1 day a month to start out with, that riders in those areas, those quadrants outside of town, call in advance, let's just say a day in advance. And if these people are homebound or wheelchair bound, they can't just go to the city center in Boyceville to get picked up. And that's what the Transit Commission used to do, and that's why there's no ridership, I think. Because they still needed to get from out of town into their town just to get into Menominee. But if this was done in a way where, let's say, this first Wednesday of every month, we pick people up in the Connersville, Boyceville, Knapp area, and you can get to those three towns and get back to Menominee in around an hour. It was something like late morning. We have 2 doorstop buses on the road. We wouldn't need to put a third one on. We wouldn't have extra hours. The bus is already out there. I think it would be something that would be doable, and then we'd take them home, early afternoon, that sort of thing, before we get real busy with our other scheduled rides. Something like that would, I think, help with a lot of what the feedback has been for rural service, because our volunteer driver program can't fit those needs like it used to. But any discussion or ideas on something like this?
What was the height of our volunteer program as far as number of volunteers?
Around 10 to 11,
Well,
pre-2020, and then 1,000 rides a year.
1,000 a year.
Yeah, this is all before I started, but, and the ADRC director too, but, since then,
Yeah.
everybody's been a little more hesitant to just,
And so
do that.
you kind of answered my second question, was what we think is the potential riders out there or need. And so
I
could be
don't,
significant.
yeah, yep, and the nice part about if it was a call in advance service, that if we're offering it and if nobody calls, no harm, no foul. But compared to setting a fixed route to go up there, I think it would be pretty doable without breaking our operations budget, that sort of thing. And if we're talking about this now, being June, for my 2025 PTAP application, we'd be easily able to be added to that, and all of our ducks in a row paperwork wise for something like that. But, maybe.
Sorry,
No,
is there a
go ahead.
different size vehicle you think about for these routes?
So we have some money in our trust fund that would, I believe, qualify for 80% reimbursement for the state if we were to buy an accessible minivan or something like that. But if that holds 2 wheelchairs, it only has space for one other rider in a passenger seat. So for the amount of fuel savings, if this becomes a little popular, it automatically, just like that, becomes too small.
What about
But,
a full size? What about a full size
um,
van? Or at that point, are we?
at that point, it's the same size as our minibuses, 14 passenger. So, and you're saving maybe a couple miles per gallon. So if these new buses ever come, they will be smaller than the rest. They'll match our one non-CDL bus that's 3 feet shorter, a little bit easier to get in some of these driveways, but we do have one pretty small bus. That's barely over 20 feet. So that one would be a great fit for something like this. A little lighter, a little bit better fuel mileage, that sort of thing. But yeah.
And those are non-CDL.
Yep,
That's
the 2
helpful.
new ones as well as the one we do have. So maybe this is a better split into 6. Maybe, so if anybody has other ideas for that. But I mean, you can still get to Ridgeland and back to here in just under an hour. So then that's the very north point.
Mhm.
But welcome any
So
critiques or
you're offering that once a month.
to a quadrant and if it was popular, we, if this is split into 4 once a month, once a week, it's going somewhere on a Wednesday or something.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Okay.
So, certain days of the week are busier for us than others with dialysis patients, with day programs, stuff like that. But then some days, Tuesdays and Thursdays, it's usually a little lighter during certain hours. So the biggest thing is not spending a bunch of extra money with extra drivers or manpower to do this with it kind of in its pilot stage.
Sure.
And if we get great success on this or something, we could add more. But yeah, biggest thing is looking at history and what didn't work. And
I like this idea a lot better than a regular route going someplace and not knowing if there's gonna be anybody there.
Yeah.
They gotta call first.
Yeah.
And then pick them up. I mean, that just going to a place and having nobody there just seems like a lot of waste.
100%.
So I like this idea a lot better.
Okay.
I think it also allow you to build some sort of data and patterns, so if you are thinking about buying a minivan or something, you can at least get a pattern and data to support kind of development or evolution of it, so.
Or we send the accessible van out
Yeah.
depending on who signed up. So, yeah, I think it'd be very beneficial just to have one of those around on some of these.
On the volunteer drivers, you
Yeah.
said that there's tax they have to file, and so I'm guessing that's federal and state on the back end.
I am not.
67 cents is federal.
Okay,
Oh, is it? Yeah.
all I know is that's really shooed
Yeah.
some away because they're losing money at the end of it by the time that's all done.
Yeah.
Volunteer driver program has about $20,000 a year to put towards that mileage and stuff like that, but they haven't touched much of that because we've gotten so little for a few years now. So some of that, if ADRC wanted to put some sort of promotion towards this, they could put, let's just say $2 or $4 a ride towards that $7 for X amount of months to help kickstart that and make the cost less to the riders utilizing it out of town. That would be more of a 2025 thing as well, because of stipulations, you just need to put it in your grant application. But we can brainstorm this more, but I think it's pretty good fit.
They're paying 67 cents. That's not, what's 10 miles? Is all there.
Even if even if you talking about the promo money and money that's available, even if you did a little, let's say there's a pool of 15 people that get active using this consistently, you can put their name in a hat and draw one out and pay their whole fare for a ride or something, and they pretty soon they start talking to people, oh, this is a cool deal, or whatever, just little things like that where you're $2 off or whatever.
It and that goes far when it's a low rate like this, that 20,000. If the other option is if ADRC contracted out with this other agency, nonprofit agency, their rides are $14 each way base rate plus
Each way.
plus 67 plus cents a mile. So going somewhere, it's 50, $60. So
If I'm gonna ride from Ridgeland to Menominee.
Yep.
Go see my chiropractor or something, it's like $60.
Yep.
Wow.
And then some other company, I just got off the phone with people through the state of agencies and sometimes it's up to $250 depending on the distance and stuff like that, or somebody's got to go to we can't help with the VA and stuff like that, but I think there's some upside here, even just getting people into town.
So your scheduling, are you flexible? Or is you had like 8-10 people call and they all had like a doctor's appointment at a certain time? Are you flexible for a couple hours, like going at that time, help them out or not?
If we can get them into town, once they're in town, it's pretty flexible. But if we're gonna go out of town, it's kind of a once a day kind of thing in the morning and then once a day in the afternoon to get them back or late morning, something like that. And it would have to be, make this efficient for everybody and doable. It'd have to be, this is a time and if you can schedule your appointment during this time.
Yeah.
You know, a month out for the next one, or even a couple weeks out if this goes well. I think that'd be the way we have to approach it.
Thanks worth the try.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
No other slides on here other than questions, and then I kind of wanted to make this questions area a parking lot of any other, you know, I've every month since I've been doing this, I've done ridership and other stuff. If there's other topics through transit that you'd like to see touched on the next meeting, or stuff that I should be covering more in depth, I welcome any feedback on that.
I have a couple.
Yeah.
One, I'm a promo guy. Every empty seat in the stadium's a bad seat kind of guy.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I don't know, just an idea for you to ponder. Maybe nobody else thinks this is any good, but have you ever done anything, you know, to continue to build your popularity and viewership and of what services are available and those kinds of things? Just thinking outside of the box, doing some kind of a promo with a couple passes, you know? Where you're gonna promote, hey, you know, we get X number of hits or whatever on our site, you know, we're gonna auction off, or that's the other word I'm looking for. Have a couple free passes available, throw your name in the hat, and we're gonna draw your name out of a hat and you could win a free pass. Maybe you do it with your current ridership group to start with, to try to give them something back, you know, to get them to keep using it and maybe get them to start spreading the word about it and that kind of thing. So just throwing that out there. Maybe it's a June, July, August pass or a 1 month or however you'd want to create something like that. Just throwing that out there. And then my second question, I'm gonna go back to something that I talked about late winter, I think it was, when we were, you know, trying to see where our electric bus status was, what, you know, what's going on with that. And, you know, just my concern was our fleet getting to a point where now all of a sudden those aren't coming, and now all of a sudden we have to replace 3 or 4 units, you know, at one time. That's obviously gonna be really expensive to do that. And I know you had reported back to us, you were looking at some other style buses, you know, maybe more of a city type bus possibly, but looking for a used one or something like this. Is there any update on any of that kind of thing that, you know, what's moving, what's shaking there in 30 seconds or less?
Yeah,
Yes.
I have a meeting set up with our finance director and at least 1 or 2 other individuals from the finance office on seeing what we have in the bank in our transit enterprise. And because we've saved some money over the past 4 years, and then I'll have a good idea of what we can swing, because we have some of that earmarked for the 20% of those other buses that come in if they did. But I don't see a problem with what these other used ones go for, that they would be an issue. But then I think it'd be great if it was done before this next semester started. If I found someone at Transit Commission wanted to go forward on 2 scout buses or 1. You can find them for 10 to 20,000 these things run for 500,000 miles and they're being sold at around 200,000 for about 10 to 20. That can fit a lot more people. These ones that were purchased a while back, they're rated for around what the seating capacity is, and they were listed for close to double that. So, we really shouldn't be having that many on there. So I think it's a bigger need than what we realize. So,
Right.
this would be the, other than that one we purchased last minute, a couple of years ago, that non-CDL bus. So I think this is something that if the money's there and the Transit Commission likes what they see, you go for it. Yeah,
So I have two questions. Are we under any obligation now, contract wise, for those buses? Or because they've been delayed, that we're not really, if we decide to go someplace else, they're not really held to it?
I'll have an answer for that next month.
Okay,
Other Wisconsin agencies are getting very aggressive with their emails back to the supplier,
okay.
more than what I showed last month. It's just crickets on the other side. So it's been 4 years since I sent that initial down payment PO out. So I will find out.
So we've already paid a down payment?
I need to look back at that.
I was gonna
It's been a
say,
little while. But I will have an answer for you next meeting on that. When I go through everything else with the finance team, I'll circle back and figure out what works best moving forward.
So my other question, we've been talking about, promotions. Do you ever have anything at the Dunn County Fair, like a bus there with a little display, or I wonder if that'd be a good idea, or at least think about it? Cause that gets a lot of, people going to see that display
That'd be really good.
building. Well,
I could put one of the transit buses in that race on Friday night, like I put my own bus.
that's not the demolition race, is it?
No,
Just like Sheriff Big puts the cop car in there. So,
Just something to think.
I'll check on the bus display or what needs to happen on that. If you have any contact. I think Marge is still on the fair board, and maybe I contact her and see.
I think Larry Bjork is on it too.
yeah,
Okay,
and.
I don't know if you have to,
Ronnie Score helps and
if you have to get a space.
I just get ahold of Deb.
okay,
Adamson.
okay,
If you want her number, I can give it to you, so
okay.
I can look you up with that.
I'll-
I'm sure she'll be
Go ahead.
more than happy to have something like that as part of it.
I think three areas. One is, we were talking about paid ridership way back, and so did we start that last June, July?
I think last June.
Okay. Because you're saying this is gonna be the first full summer with it. Okay.
Yep.
So I'm thinking back to that, but has that exceeded your expectations or our expectations last June when we implemented?
With ridership
Yeah.
since the paid fare?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So you're making up, I think the number at that time was like, you're trying to like get 19,000 of more local share through that.
Yeah, we're trying to. The goal was around another 500 a month,
Yeah, okay, yep,
$6,000 a year on the community route.
that's right.
So we've surpassed that.
Okay,
And it's been good. We've always been short on our local share
right.
every year. So we won't this year.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
especially now with that big purchase of passes.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
even without that, we were right on track
Okay.
with that 500 to 600 a month.
So it's doing well. And the other thing we were talking about that was maybe that psychological hump of people like, oh, I can't believe you're, but it seems like we've gotten past that.
No.
People are good.
It's been, I mean, even if you look pre-2020, it was $1.50.
Yeah.
And 75 cents. So it's $1 or 75 cents for the ambulatory non-elderly with a pass, and it's 50 cents non ambulatory elderly disabled with a pass. So still cheaper than it was before. So ridership is way up with that.
And that route has been redesigned. I
Yep.
think it's much more usable.
I think having this pathway to judicial is gonna be great too.
Yes.
Because we drop people off at government center and they need to go to judicial. That was one route that one stop we cut off in 2020 because there was no riders that went there. Now there is, and we didn't have a way to get them there
Right.
till now. Thank you for
Um,
that.
Area 2, you talked about there's other agencies, I'm guessing BART, which is Ashland.
Yep.
I don't can't remember who else.
Across county, couple others.
They're getting more aggressive in their emails. And so that's, like, what's my question is, so it's a federal grant, but it's being managed by WISDOT. You all have to work with WISDOT on a regular basis, so you want your relationships, but at the same time, yes, the vendor is to blame, but at the same time, I feel like the WISDOT and the feds have not held people accountable and not kept their thumb on the button, so to speak. And so I think about how maybe as you all as transit managers need to have a good relationship with stuff, but us as a commission can say, we need to step it up. And I do think that they are to blame to some level on WISDOT and the feds. I don't know if that's, you may bring some of the emails or this, where the temperature is going in the future, but we've invested a lot. I still believe that the e-buses would be a great addition to our fleet. But I also wonder if maybe it's time that maybe this body puts a little pressure out to legislators on the state and federal level and say, this is the story. It's a long story. It should be better than this. So vendor issues aside.
Yeah, I agree. The main WISDOT contact who put a lot of this together, retired from the state too.
Sure.
So
Yep.
now we're going through kind of a different group. 90% of the way through this.
Yeah.
There is a big Buy America contract in that stipulation through that grant. And this company that is producing these buses for us has delivered many buses
Okay.
that did not have to fit that. That's what's been a huge setback as well for this procurement of this with those battery issues. So I'll get a synopsis put together of where we're at now for next meeting. So,
I mean, I don't know if it's even a question, but it's just maybe something to think about or as you're working with WISDOT and colleagues is I think about this volunteer driver and that 67 cents. And I think there's gotta be a way for a waiver for doing the taxes on that at a certain level. If you're doing rural driving, if you're not collecting X amount of dollars, that would surely help the program. I don't think anybody's getting rich on this.
That's 67 cents.
Seems very stupid that. Yeah, it just seems like a hurdle that really pushes people away from doing something really good for the community. And so I don't know if there's any ever rumblings out there of like, this is something we could tackle legislatively. I think that'd be worthwhile looking at. That's all I got. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Anybody? Otherwise, number 7?
number 7.
All right, consideration actions, discussion on $10 punch card for CBCC students.
I say go ahead. Make a motion to approve the $10 punch card deal for the CBT students.
Dustin, second to the second. Any other discussion? It's no brainer. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 8, nothing. Number 9, next meeting, July 10th. Same place, same time. We're adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Actually, maybe a little more answer each time.
Yeah, that's right.